Okay, so Ann and Andrea and I have spent some time since coming back from my sabbatical together, thinking about the conversations we've listened to, where we're headed to as a church. As I said briefly in the sermon, when COVID came, everything changed. And for the time of COVID, I think the staff and the volunteers who helped us continue on and to learn and grow and shift and adapt did an amazing job to keep us together. Some people said to me it was a lifeline, this church, through that COVID time. And we are also willing and glad to say that we've moved beyond the liminal space-time. If you probably got sick of that word, but standing on the threshold for a long time of not quite there and not quite there, we are now ready to step forward as a church and say, now we are ready to move forward. And so we've been looking this past month at It's Time, and this phrase, which I'll invite to come on the screen, Hillhurst United Church is called to deepen our connection and experience of God's loving presence in the world. Now, this is not a tagline, it's not going to be a banner, but it guides everything that we're going to share with you today about how we believe that it's time now to deepen our connection and experience of God's loving presence in the world. And so I'll go to the next. You're saying why? How we do church has changed. Obviously, not just the fact that there are people voting online, but our congregation throughout the week is upward in the neighborhood of 400 people join us online. And so it's not just online, but it's changed. Since returning, we have welcomed Living Spirit United Church folks to join us, as well as new people, even new people here today. This church welcomes lots of people all the time, and church has changed. We've also shifted to what there are four main sizes of churches. There's a family church, that's your rural church, that's a small church where everybody knows everybody. Then there's a pastoral church where it's centered around the pastor and yet that same similar sense of intimacy. The third church is called a program church, and this program means the programs are feed the lifeblood of the church. And we're on that shift between program and corporate, and we have been for some time, which shifts the way the staff lead and connect and the way the programs feed the church. So we're recognizing this change is a reality, and we're just naming it. The online church has changed how we do meetings, how we do mindful mornings, how we connect to our church that is across our country and around the world. The emergence of the online community has had a significant impact on our community, and it's in many ways benefited and helped grow our church. It's time for us to look forward. I feel that we have a very solid senior leadership team, and when I say that, the three of us, Ann and Andrea and I, work closely. We work well together. We worked hard at making that happen. As we bring new people together, the three of us in a new way, I feel our team is solid. We like each other. We love working together, and we share in the leadership. Andrea has landed. Imagine landing from Vancouver to here in COVID and standing here doing sermons to nobody, as we got quite accustomed to, but for her to land here and be grounded here. And so we welcome her enthusiasm and what she brings to our church, and that has shaped us as well. Ann's role as executive director, she's the third one we've had in our time. Bryce Payton, who is at the back here, was our first one. When did you start, Bryce? Do you remember? 2013, we initiated this role of executive director that looks at the operations of the church, and Bryce was instrumental in shaping that and starting it. We then had Lisa Vakowski, who was here doing that role, and she brought from the outside world, the nonprofit world, the gifts that she had. But we could not be the church we are without the skill and gift of Ann as executive director. She brings skills in people as well as systems and the internet, etc. You all know all about it. But what this helps us do is have the gifts that she brings clearer to us, and what we'll share in a few moments makes it clear that the three of us working together is a solid, confident staff. We're also very fortunate to have the support staff. We had a meeting here last week to share some of this with them. You have very great people in the office, at the back right now. As you can see, just look over your shoulder, don't look at me over here. People doing this work and people in kids space The staff is very strong, and they have a strong sense of call and work in this place. So the church has also expressed a new found desire to live the values of our church. And I think this is really interesting as people come to our church and say, I want to get involved, I want to try something, I would like to initiate something. And so the plan we're willing to share with you today invites that to happen. There's an eagerness for depth and to go deeper in the areas we're already excelling in, and it's the best way to live out our values. So who we are as a church has changed, and hence the way we organize ourselves has changed. We want to share some of that with you right now.
So I'll actually invite Isaac, if you can go back to that statement that John read 2 slides ago. The statement that we have been working with as a senior leadership staff team, but also in significant conversation with some of our governance folks here in this community, is Hillhurst United Church is called to deepen our connection and experience of God's loving presence in the world. And as John said, this is not a statement that is going to become our next tagline. We're not going to put this on a t-shirt anytime soon. It is still, this whole presentation is a working document, but this is what we have prayerfully discerned through our listening to those of you in the congregation, to one another, to the dreams of those of you who are offering yourselves and your hands and your work and your own sense of call to this community. This is a statement that we feel has some really key words for us, called deepen, connection, experience, God, presence, and world. And so how do we do this? That's a lofty goal, it sounds like. So we have come up with some steps for us as senior leadership, but also for us as a community of faith to take towards living into this new sense of call. The first is by very clearly restructuring how we lead and how and where we focus. So you'll hear in just a minute a new kind of structuring for us as a senior leadership team, but also for some of our programs as well. So the intention being to create a lot more spaciousness for us to expand, for us to deepen, a lot more integration for us to go deep in a way that feels collective and connected, and also in the area of call. So restructuring how we lead and how we focus is key. The second is by getting the right people in the right places. You have just participated in helping us do that. We have some phenomenal people sitting on our board and our M&P committee already, and we are adding some more people, and some very wise ones at that, to this group of people. So we are ever listening for those who have a sense of call to this kind of governance work, and we are very excited to be including them in this new step. We also are going to be staffing in alignment with this new vision. You heard excitedly in worship this morning, if you were here, that we have hired Amanda Massey as our coordinator of Next Gen Ministries, but we also have some positions open that Anne is going to mention in a few minutes that this community has been asking for, and that will help us take this forward. We also really are working hard at being in conversation with those who lead in this community, whether you are a volunteer, whether you are someone who is looking to get connected, whether you are one of our paid staff employees, to foster a sense of call. This isn't directly related to religious affiliation or belief. This is a sense that what we are personally passionate about, personally heartbroken by, personally convicted by, is something that actually can be of service to this community. And so really listening to one another, being in conversation about what it is we are longing for, all of our staff, all of our volunteers. This is where some of our most incredible and thriving programs have come out of, this sense of call. So we are, as senior leadership and as a community, looking to foster that sense of call in one another. And then we are required to then equip those leaders with this sense of call. So we'll speak when we get to a slide called Timeline about what this looks like specifically, but it does include spending a period of time with all of those who are in leadership in this community, walking through a shared set of values, a shared vision, a shared understanding, and equipping those who are interested in leadership here to feel confident and called in those areas. Lastly, I would say that the question that comes out of a statement like this, Hillhurst United Church is called to deepen our connection and experience of God's loving presence in the world. The question that we end with is, how are we going to know we've done that? And the church is a funny business because we can't just quantify things in numbers, in the number of people who are in the pews, in the number of dollars that we have coming in or going out. That's not how we quantify what it looks like to be successful when we're talking about faithfulness or spirit or call. And really what it comes down to is encouraging you to help us and to hold us accountable and to hold yourselves accountable to being these people in the world. We hear testimonies time and time again in this community about the things you have seen, the things you have participated in, the opportunities that have fallen upon your laps to serve others, and those stories are the stories that are going to help us know that we are, in fact, going deeper in this experience together. So those are our bird's eye view hows, and now we're going to get into some details.
Hello. So I want to start with this, that we've decided a couple of things. Number one, that God is in and within everything. So God is over there, but that God is all over this. So when you say to yourself, I wonder if they're talking about God in that piece, we are. We just made very clear that God's in all of this. The first choice was that, well, what are we doing and what are we spending our time on? And we've decided that Sunday worship is 70% of our effort in this church. That's 70% of our effort and to make it happen, to be in it and around it. That's where our 70% is. Then we've actually decided, out of that, what comes out of that? And a lot of times what happens is that we have 70%, and then we have all of our ministries in silos. So we have something major lesson and wonderful things coming out of the pulpit, and then we've got a ministry over here not paying attention to anything that's happening on Sunday. And we're saying we actually really want our ministers to help filter down exactly what's happening in this sanctuary into all of our other ministries, like Kids Space and like music and right relations and choir and all these other things, including social justice. So one of the things that we're doing is that we're being very intentional about our intentions to have what happens on Sunday somehow happen again during the week, or the people that are working during the week, like William and Robin and contemplative people like that, they actually help us bring what they're doing into the sanctuary. So there's more of a weave between the ministries, and there's not silos. So the siloed is the biggest issue that we're dealing with. The other thing we're dealing with is, like, how do we say yes? That's one of my biggest things, is how do I say yes? And I, surprised, don't have a theological degree, but I'm obviously quite spiritual. And how we came to do this is that we have things, our ministries, that we've decided that you go to any of these things under spiritual formation, and I just so gently said, there's a Bible involved on the left. Basically, that's how I say, like, there is a definitive spiritual piece on the left. Things like, we had to make the decision, is youth group spiritual or not? Yes, it is. It is. It's not a community center. It's a spiritual piece of what we're doing. Then on the other side, which is not really the other side, there's a hand in hand, it's community impact. It's basically where our call is how we are actually growing and to have connection in the community. These are the things we're able to do to actually say, how are we in the world? And these are actually the bridges to actually lead us into to what community looks like, what it means to be in one together, what it means to grow. And one of the most important things that we just recently did was yoga. We had done yoga before, and then we said, okay, we had already gotten into this piece of the Church Without Walls, and I said, okay, well, I want to say yes to yoga, but what I'm hearing from the community is that some people can't pay. They can't pay for yoga. Okay, sat down and talked with Beth, sat down and talked with Rachel. Let's do yoga without charging anything. That's wonderful. So we opened it up. 63 people in various 3 classes over time came to yoga. Then I sent out a feedback survey. The number one thing that came back was, thank you for offering it without a charge, because I couldn't come otherwise. So we have a woman 3 doors down. She came every single time because she could. That's the piece that is really important for us to know, that we are serving ourselves, we're also serving the community. So that's part of my role here, is to say, how are we serving the community and serving ourselves? So that's kind of the gist of that. And then we put over here the senior leadership team, and everything under the senior leadership team is what makes this thing happen. Basically, it's governance makes it happen, administration makes it happen, and the newest thing is an extended leadership team that will be the leaders of all of our ministries and initiatives and activities coming together to help us understand where we're going, and also help us understand how we can actually take what they're doing and bring it into the sanctuary. So there's more of a handshake with those things, so that it's not just John and Andrea and I saying this is what's happening. So it's not that anymore. And then the second campus is still a piece of we needed to put the second campus on here because it's something that is in the air. It is happening. We're just trying to figure out how it's happening. So we didn't want it not to be there, but it's a very active situation altogether. So that is that. And then I have to be full disclosure. The color scheme of this made me crazy, but I didn't have the time to actually change it. So just sit with that, okay? Made me crazy. Anyway, so we started this differently, where actually we created a different chart that was more structural and hierarchical, and then actually went to the board and M&P about it, and they said, it's not working for us because it looks like an org chart, and it wasn't an org chart. It's how Andrea and John and I actually work together. And so if you look at this, we have divided some very key things now. Before, a lot of the things that were Andrea's plate, which is worship production, digital ministry, things like that, they were all on my plate. We are officially giving those to Andrea. You're welcome. Yeah. Welcome aboard. And then we're saying that the vision of the church ultimately sits in John's hands at the end of the day, and he works with others to create that vision, but that he is responsible for that vision. And the second campus is John's responsibility. And also the contemplative elderhood, spiritual nurture, and our education, which happens to be all of our different programming, falls under John's capabilities. So the other piece that's more important here is that we have that thing in the white in the middle. And what we found after we presented it to the board was that I functionally take care of the administration right now and oversight of social justice work, and have for a while. And the reality is that social justice and congregational care live within the 3 of us all the time. So it's not like just one person oversees it. But if you see that, like structurally, I will oversee a position, it means that I oversee that position because I take care of that position and make sure that those things are coming into the sanctuary enough, and make sure that we are kind of checking off some boxes with different things, and also making sure that our social justice people have an avenue to the sanctuary. And sometimes that is not directly through Andrea and John. It needs to be through another level. So the bigger piece of this is that the structural chart showed it a little bit better, but we are moving into a different size church, and that church Andrea and John need to have certain people that they connect with on a regular basis, and not everybody. So it's a model that we're actually really uplifting the people that are in these key roles, like William Brooke, who's in contemplative, who oversees all of these other small ministries. Willow, who has stepped up to take over congregational care, who will oversee our new visitation team, our prayer team, our meal team, and things like that. And then also we're creating something called wellness workshops, which are basically, we say, we need to have something beyond the sanctuary and beyond a ministry that says, okay, well, let's talk about what it means to have a financial dilemma in the middle of a COVID. Like things like that are actually worldly that we want to be able to say yes to, but we don't have a spot for right now. So it allows the congregation to come forward and say, I have an idea. And that's where that happens. And then being intentional about community and things like that. So I wanted to just clarify the white piece right there, because it was one of the pieces that was brought forward. The other pieces of which in the green, which is Andrea and John share, pretty exclusively, but it's also what's not there is that John is ultimately responsible for the senior pastoral care at this church, and Andrea is second to that. So basically, we've said if something really big comes down, John is in the seat first, Andrea second. Being very clear about who's in charge on some of those instances. So what we're trying to take is take all the gray away, and that's the part that we've been struggling with a little bit. So then we have John, and we have just broken it out to exactly what each of these things is. So contemplative, daybreak, mindful meditation, movement, practicing presence, chapel arts, and yoga. That is, I really should have just put, that's William. William's up there in the top left-hand corner. So he and John will work very, very closely together. And membership class, confirmation, Enneagram, and marriage prep, that is often myself or administration, but John is ultimately the one who says, we have to have Enneagram at this church or confirmation or whatever. It's his responsibility. And Andrea is, as we've explained, coming into overseeing Next Gen, AV, and all of the music. And then there's me. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, we talked about this as a board, but I have a lot of people, and in fact, I have to tell you something that was really neat. We went through and we said, who is volunteering at the church? Who's stepping up? Who's doing this thing? We had 130 people. 130 people. That's incredible. Yeah. So I want to be clear, I'm not doing all of that by myself, but I'm just sort of being the conductor of most of it and making sure that things happen. We have a very competent staff. We met last Sunday. This staff team is an incredible staff team. Everybody's in, they understand, and we're working towards what it means to have a call at this church. And it's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever been able to help lead is understanding what a call is, and it's not just a job. So that's really important to where I'm at. So, new roles. So we have taken what was the social justice lead, and we are actually saying we want that little box that says community impact. Who's in charge of that box? That person is. That person's going to be in charge of outreach and community impact, which is a larger role, what actually allows that person to have more connection with John and Andrea and I to be able to say, how does this actually impact our world as a regular, on a normal basis? New Gen Ministries Coordinator, check. All done. Worship producer, as you've noticed Chad being back there. Chad has come in. Chad was like so instrumental during COVID. And we've said our online ministry is really important. Rather than me running back there trying to fix everything like we just did a little while ago, but it's different. Chad is running the show back there as a consultant, and we're going to start doing some things and probably bring on one more staff member so that the online ministry is really it's staffed properly. It just doesn't happen. So the people here are focused, can have focus. Communications lead, Sarah, if you're watching, I miss you so much. Anyway, so we have to replace basically Sarah. What we have noticed is that Sarah's role is one of those, the communications lead is one of the most incredible roles at this church, and we couldn't just flip-flop because we knew we were going in different direction, and we needed to wait till we were ready. We are ready, and the role is posted right now. So if you know anybody, you should do that. And second campus strategist, which is helping John. And then this last one is a brand new thing, is that basically if you want to have a walking group, if you want to go hiking, you want to go do whatever you want to do. We want to be able to be your center point on this. It's very much like a Spark group that we had a really great example of before. They will not be church-led, but they'll be church-centralized so that you have the resources of the church to be able to connect with others, but you can actually, when you say, I don't know how to get involved with anything, go here, and then you will find your people. So we're just trying to create a spot that you can go find your people. So I think that's it. Oh, when? Timeline. So we have we're right on top of it. Board M&P, the plan that you've just seen and heard is not something that it's not off the hip. This has been a really long time of discerning. And it's gone through the board, it's gone through M&P. We've talked to you sort of on the down low for 4 weeks, you didn't know it yet. We presented to the staff last week, and now here we are. So the idea is that in July and the summer, we're going to actually get more leaders, and in September, we will not have as much programming because we are going to have our leaders actually work with us to see what it looks like next, because if we just keep going, it looks the same. So we have to say, in September, we are taking intentional time to do what we need to do, the work that we need to do to just shift our sails a little bit to know what this looks like in the end. And it's going to take their input to know what it looks like also. So, okay, that's it. Amen.
Okay, we're going to invite you to take your clapping to a short conversation with people near you. What's your reaction to what you've heard today? Just literally 2 minutes. 2 minutes. What's your reaction? Hello, okay. We're going to try to finish this in 7 minutes, but I'd like to ask Spirit River just to, sorry, I'm going to step out of the way. Spirit River is on our board, and I'll invite him to speak.
Hi, I'm Spirit River. I just want to say that the board is very thankful for this work. But before I go into it, I'll let Mona speak. She's the co-chair for MNP, and I believe that this work really came from an inquiry from the MNP committee.
Thank you. So I'm speaking on behalf of our current MMP committee, so that's Barbara, Dale, and I. And just to speak to how we support this document as a living document, and that we appreciate the work that was done by our senior team, John, Andrea, and Anne, who were working on this in response to our request for some clarity of their functions. And I think this is a document that, we think that this is a document that is an opportunity to move Hillhurst forward in what we see as a changing congregation, as well as in the wider community in a changing world. So thank you to all of you for your work.
And I just want to again say on behalf of the board, so we have MNP, but then we also have the board, and we're supposed to be kind of members at large, I suppose, and we're supposed to try to bring our perspective to board meetings to kind of look at what the leadership is doing and to discern on their leadership work. And again, the board is very thankful for this work. We weren't really expecting it since it did come from MNP, but when it was presented to us, I'm a big governance geek, so I was immediately really happy with the work that was done. We've been consulted on this for the past couple of months, and so seeing some of the changes there, it looked a little bit different at first, and I think it looks really nice now. And just again, as the board, we endorse this work, and we're very proud of the work that they've done. In fact, I'd ask you to join me to just again celebrate our leadership here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
we want to take a few moments if you have questions. Again, as Andrea says, it's a working document. We're working through this. There's lots of changes, and we recommend that you offer those to us. So is there any questions today as you leave that are just a burning question? Yeah. I couldn't hear you. Sorry. Oh. Just because Anne was tired. Yeah. Anybody else? Yep.
The slideshow will be available also, and then you can actually, in your downtime, go rewatch it online.
I think the other thing is someone raised a question to me about the social justice work. So what we are doing is actually saying we are pulling this together so that the social justice work will happen, and it's coordinated, not just beyond worship, but part of worship. So there'll be a better coordination of everything we do, and not the silos. And so we've been listening, and I think that the positions that we'll be looking forward for help to do will ensure that that happens. And I think we will be even stronger in our work towards social justice. Thank you. That's really important to get. As Anne said, there's an incredible number of people leading in various ways, and they do amazing work. We want to encourage that to happen, and those who are stepping forward to say, and I'd like to do this. So we're really trying to listen, so thank you. Yeah. Hold on. We got it. Thank you.
I just have a comment. I'm hoping that the social justice lead or the community initiative lead half-time is just a target. I think that ministry is a full-time ministry here, and that's where the risk would be.
I think that the social justice role could be 5 different people, actually, to be honest with you, with our interest. We have to weigh exactly what our needs of the church are and also what our budget is. We have been very intentional about this role, which is already posted on Indeed, so you can go see the breadth of it. And we are taking this role extremely seriously as far as what we're asking this person to do, the professional development they're going to be offered, and how they're going to live in the community. Social justice will look different at this church in a very meaningful way. It's not going to just be lip service, and that's the point of all this, is to make sure that it is more intentional. So I'd like you to just give us a little grace and a little patience to get there, but know that this came from listening primarily to a lot of social justice and needs that were coming back.
Okay, one over here. Sorry,
I can't get there fast enough.
Christine's coming, so sorry. She's running really fast. Look at her. Thank you.
It's my exercise routine.
John, thank you very much for the roadmap. What I'm aware of, a key word for me is the word call, and being called and calling. And in your how slide, it says, by fostering a sense of call in those leaders and by equipping leaders to answer their own call to serve. Can you put a little bit more flesh on what you mean by equipping? That sounds, it could be on-the-job training. It could be a leadership development program. But as you move to more of a corporate kind of environment, it would seem to me that the ongoing leadership training would be very important. So I'd like you just to expand on it, because I know you've thought about it.
I want to say yes. And I'm not being flippant in that, like that's part of what Ann was saying around September, about us being intentional about people's call, why we're doing this, how we do this, so that it's intentional to support the leaders to do their ministry, if you will, within our congregation. So that's the intention to do that work. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, John.
And you can be
And
next.
Ann and Andrea. So I'm going to ask the question that I know you know is coming from me, and that is in relation to the second campus and where the region, the United Church region, is on all of this. So have you any thoughts as to where that might be going in the somewhat near future?
We do. We actually met with Trina and Joel on Tuesday. The region's position is this. They want it to happen. They're going to do whatever they can to make it happen. A church is needed there. They know that this church and our values and this church's programming, things like that, they know it's needed. They're doing whatever they can to support us in that. We were offered a very good plan going forward, and we're exploring what that means. But it does mean putting a team together of people. So a couple of people have already been asked to do that. We've already met with Jeff Crittenden, who has planted and done an incredible job planting a church, 2 churches I think now, and we are doing a lot of research around it. So the answer is yes, it's happening. It is a second campus. It is not a church plant. There is a very big differentiation. So we are not going to have a second congregation there. This will be an expansion of exactly what we are and who we are. One minute.
So we will be asking, and it'll be important for people who would like to be involved in this, as you saw was a lay strategist, a group who want to work with us on that second campus about what's possible. So what we're doing, really we had COVID, which stopped us. And now we got up off the ground, we're saying we're ready to go now, who's coming with us? And so the region is very supportive to see us dream and vision, talk to the community, and explore what's possible. So we'll be asking for anybody who'd like to join us. So it's not an exclusive group, just looking for those who are willing to do that. But the region is saying, we've held this for you, and now it's time to go. Okay?
John?
I'm concerned that we're looking at part-time staff for these positions, because usually what it means is you pay for half-time and you expect full-time, and you also get a different quality of person applying for a half-time job than you do for a person who's hired for a full-time job, which is part of their career plan. Often half-time is, I do this, but I'm primarily doing this with my life. So I think we should look at perhaps amalgamating some of those responsibilities into one position rather than getting 2 part-time that is a very different style of commitment.
That's what we did, actually. So that's actually what we did. We took the social justice role, and what we were going to hire as a community impact role, and said, we think those 2 roles separately are too small, so we're bringing that person in with a larger role. That was part of the discussion around that it would be a community impact and outreach, but basically it's a larger role on purpose. As far as it being a full-time position, frankly, we don't have the money for a full-time position at this point. I would be happy to discuss that with anybody who would be able to fund that, because I'd be happy to bring them on full-time, so just let me know.
Yeah, and that's helpful. And we'll be bringing this back to you. We're just telling you what our idea is, and I appreciate your feedback on that. That's helpful. Okay. Yes. You talk to me. Great. Glad to do that. Okay. I'm being told staff. We would like to invite the staff, or I'm going to get out of the way.
Oh, no, that's right. You can do that, please.
Like all the staff to come forward, please.
All the staff, all the staff, all the staff. Leah, you want to come up now? And I'm going to bring Leah up to help do the next piece. Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, we wanted to end this meeting the way we started it, with a little awesome party. If you heard the children sing this morning, it was very inspiring. So now's your chance to say what is awesome about your staff. So we can call it shout outs or popcorn, but you just get to say what you love about these people, what memories you have. This is your chance. So go, shout it out. What's awesome? They're all awesome. They're all awesome. Keep going. Sure. What are qualities of your staff that you've noticed? There you go.
Thoughtful, hardworking, dedicated, witty, talented, altruistic, growing, smart, playful, enthusiastic, challenging, passionate, smart, inspirational, accessible, caring, exceptional, competent, good teacher, affirming, knowledgeable, more than I knew before, fun, awesome.
If you are a lay leader in this church, which is William, Willow, Beth, looking around, if you please come up. We'd like people to see that you're leading. Our knit or not people, our right relations people, our Calgary Alliance for the Common Good people, our affirming people. Basically, if you got a little name tag, that's kind of the rule. Spiritual nurture, Wednesday morning spiritual nurture people, Lori. If you're in the band. No, this is the deal. You need to see this. This is really neat. Worship planning team, elderhood, prayer team. ESL people, trustees, board members, M&P, Claire, finance team, Nancy Watts, please, and the choir. Our maintenance man, Gord. So as you see here, when I say I'm not doing this alone and John and Andrea aren't doing this alone, this is what's happening. This has grown, and I have to tell you that most of this is in the past year. So when we're tired, it's probably because they need a lot of help, but what we're saying to you is that there's a lot going on in this church, and a lot of people are saying yes, and I'm really proud to be standing here. So.
There are many people still seated who offer their ways not necessarily designated by a group. As an example, I see Knit and Knot group here, and I see people who help people get into the church in lots of different ways, and people who greet and do all kinds of different things. So I'd like the rest of you to please rise. So our work as we go about it is Hillhurst United Church is called to deepen our connection and experience of God's loving presence in the world. When we look around this room and those who are online and those who will join us next week, it takes all of us to be the church, and we give thanks for your leadership and for your willingness to stay today as we work through what we're trying to work through, being the hands and feet of Christ in the world. So as you leave this meeting, go with peace and gratitude, for the church needs you, and we look forward to you stepping up in whatever way you would like. For those who are taking a rest, we give thanks for the leadership that you have. And I give thanks that I stand here with all the folks here who help us to be our church. Blessings on the rest of the day.
And there's cake.
Oh, and apparently there's cake to your left. Amen.